You're still watching Breakfast Central on News Central. Still in Nigeria, where the World Bank has called on the federal government of the country to remove fuel subsidy, reduce its indebtedness to Central Bank of Nigeria, and increase tax on the certain items as a way of shoring up the fortune of the economy. Now, according to the World Bank, the poor for whom the subsidy was instituted do not benefit from its hence the need to dump it all together.
Now, the World Bank is the second international lender to advise Nigeria to remove the fuel subsidy in November after the International Monetary Fund last week noted that Nigeria must remove the subsidy completely in early 2022. Now, joining us this morning is Desmond N. Agboifo. Now, Desmond is a director of Descentine Energy. He's also an upstream petroleum management professional. Many thanks for joining, Desmond. Now, first, the Nigerian government has rejected the growth forecast of 2.7% given by developmental partners for 2021, and they have insisted on it being close to about 3.2%. Who is the right one out of these two? And although the reality feels like growth is around 0.01% if you ask some people.
Well, thank you very much. I think, thank you very much for having me on the session this morning, and I hope you're all keeping safe. To your question around which is which, I think the numbers are fairly contestable. Depends on the side of the divide that you're in. But just to put it in context, I mean, we've seen different international organizations having their own forecasts within the Nigerian space, and we've seen that the IMF some time ago, perhaps at the end of last year, came up with a metric of about 1.5%, or that's about on our GDP side. And of course, we've seen the World Bank also hovers around 1%, but we can see clearly that towards the end of the first quarter of this year, as a nation, we are hovering around 2.5%. I mean, that's also a positive variant from what was actually speculated. So yes, so to your question, I think we're doing pretty well as a country. Of course, of course, there are room for improvement here and there. And with respect to growth, despite all the issues that is befalling the nations from inflation issues and all that, I think there's a positive side of this.
All right, Desmond, the issue about subsidy in Nigeria clearly gets on people's heads, to just stand and spring up. But the government has agreed to remove subsidy on petrol from next year. But it is economically viable, to give a portion of Nigerians 5,000 naira? First, how would they even determine those who will get these? And are they across for different parts of the country or only some parts of the country? Your thoughts on this point?
Okay, thank you. First of all, on the subject of economics, asking the question rather if the subsidy has to be taken off. Clearly, the World Bank has advised and authorities, and issuing a 5,000 naira to I think about 40 million Nigerians. Putting numbers in context, that's clearly not feasible for one or two reasons. One, it's more like a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And if you look at the numbers very clearly, we've seen that in the last 9 months, Nigeria has spent about 250 billion naira on subsidy payments, and the plan now is for us to spend about $5.8 billion, which is about 2.4 trillion naira in a year. I mean, just to be able to keep the tensions down by just issuing very media support. I mean, the question will be if this is sustainable, which I think is clearly not. I think, but however, on the side of the government, we've seen that there are efforts that are already on the way to ensure that, they sort of revive the economy, because, 4 issues before the country. So we're looking at inflation issues, we're looking at trying to drive up production levels, or we're looking at trying to get progress on the PIA, which is a bit stalled at the moment. And generally, the economy needs that buffer to get on. And a country that spends that amount of money is quite a lot. So just more your question again. Giving out 5,000 naira to 40 million Nigerians. We're a country of about 200 million people, so that's just 1/5 of the population. So question is on what are the means so which they can be able to have a fair share of this fund. That'll be the next question, and I think it's something that the government has to look into very carefully too.
All right. Now, Desmond, looking at the fuel consumption in Nigeria now, because we're looking at removal of subsidy, inclusion of subsidy. Now, as of 2021, September this year, there was a report that pegged the daily consumption of fuel in Nigeria to about 71 million liters, and that has pushed subsidy to over 540 billion naira. Now, Nigeria has been waiting for this Petroleum Industry Act to be signed. It has now been signed. Why has there not been any implementation? Not also forgetting the fact that some people believe that President Buhari seemed to be delaying the inauguration of the NNPC board. Now, do you see these delays deterring investors from coming to Nigeria?
Okay, well, clearly, as you would expect, thank you very much too. I mean, there's that skepticism in the air that, there's been stalled progress in trying to kick off the PIA and all of its strategies going forward. Well, I know that it's just so clear that there's also a disappointing feeling among the Nigerians and stakeholders that we're trying to put position holders that perhaps are not skilled enough. So these are some of the back end issues that are going on around the circles. On the side of progresses, I think we're on the right track, to be honest. And as much as it's not coming out as we expect, we should also be hopeful. That's the truth. Because if you take a step back, we've seen how we've come a long way to even how the PIB even sanctioned in August. That's already a 13 years journey coming. So the point is, I know it's a bit slow. Governments take their time to ensure that best interests are being put forward. The mismatch should not give any issues for the investors to see that as a deterrent on their plans to come to the country to invest. The country needs that investment as much as we need to grow as a nation. But however, I think there's a progress on side of the government, and I'm sure we'll see a bit of the progress in the next few months, maybe from now till end of the next quarter of next year. We've seen, for example, 2 board members have just been inaugurated, even if they are being contested by the different stakeholders. So we've seen the NURC, we've seen the NNPRA and other bodies come up on screen. So yes, then there's even instances where they've even inaugurated some NEDs just on the sideline. So we can see, from the news, we can see that there's traction. It's not been very, very impressive, but it's better slow than never.
All right, subsidy to remove or to stay. The ongoing debate continues right here in Nigeria. But thank you so much once again, Desmond N. Agbe, for coming on Breakfast Central as Director of Decision Energy and also Upstream Petroleum Management Professional. Thank you once again, Desmond, for your time on Breakfast Central.
Thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you.